That Christmas Eve, the choir outside St. Ember Church sang Silent Night. In our kitchen, the crack of my stepmother's slap was louder than the bells. Marla had just shattered a plate. My father bent to check the ham, as if the oven's temperature mattered more than the blood on my lip. I used to think silence kept the peace, but as the song changed to Joy to the World, I hit record on a hidden camera and changed the rules. Tonight, I wasn't the daughter to ignore. I was the one rewriting the script. My name is Rowan Calloway. I am 29 years old, and for the last 4 years, I have been the lead data analyst for Northlight Analytics, a company that predicts market collapse by tracking shadow indicators. I am, by profession, a person who finds the pattern in the noise. I find the lie hidden in the ledger. I am good at it. I am precise. I am paid very well to be ruthless. None of that matters in Northbridge, Vermont. Driving back here is like entering a dead zone. The cell signal drops just past the county line, and so does every ounce of my carefully constructed professional authority. Here, I am not Ms. Calloway. Team lead, I am Rowan, just Rowan, Gordon's quiet daughter, Marla's problematic stepdaughter, the one who left. This is the first Christmas I have agreed to attend since Graham's funeral. That was last year. A blur of lukewarm casseroles and whispered condolences in this very house. I sat in the back parlor, numb, while Marla, my stepmother, accepted sympathies as if she were the primary mourner. Her hand clasped tragically over the grief she never felt. I said nothing then. I was still processing, still grieving, still, as my grandmother Iris used to say, building my case. But today is different. Today, I am not grieving. I am executing a query. The house smells wrong. Marla has doused the entryway in a cloud of cinnamon and synthetic pine, an aggressive chemical warmth that fails to mask the underlying scent of old varnish, dust, and something metallic and cold. It's the smell of secrets. Rowan, you're late. Marla doesn't hug. She inspects. She stands in the archway of the dining room, a tall woman poured into a severe burgundy dress. Her blonde hair is sprayed into a helmet of festive perfection. She is a living, breathing spreadsheet of calculated hospitalities. The roads were slick, Marla. Nonsense. The plows were out by 10. Your father was getting worried. My father, Gordon Calloway, materializes behind her, wiping his hands on a dish towel. He looks older. The space around his eyes has tightened, but his gaze is as soft and unfocused as ever. Rowan, kiddo, glad you made it. He makes a move as if to hug me, but Marla shifts half an inch, and the gesture dies, turning into an awkward pat on my arm. Hi, Dad. The house is full, the peripheral relatives, the audience, Aunt Carol and Uncle Mike, who always sit on the sidelines, Cousin Jan, who is already half drunk and laughing too loudly in the kitchen. They are the jury, the ones Marla has spent the last decade convincing of my instability, my selfishness, my ingratitude. We move into the dining room, a room I have always hated. It's too dark, all mahogany and heavy drapes. Marla has set the table with the good china, the silver polish to a weaponized gleam, and in the center, on the sideboard, sits the ham. It's a monstrosity, glistening under a thick, dark glaze. Beside it lies the carving set, but also a smaller, sharper blade, a scoring knife. My eyes fix on it, the way the light hits the steel, a bad feeling, cold and electric, prickles my palms. My hands are sweating. It's not a vague premonition, it's a specific, localized dread. This kitchen, this knife, this holiday, the variables are all wrong. Now before we sit, Marla's voice slices through the low chatter. Just one little piece of housekeeping. She smiles, a thin, bright line that doesn't reach her eyes. She is addressing the room, but her gaze is locked on me. With the holidays being so emotional, and with dear Iris gone. She pauses. For effect, a tiny, respectful dip of her chin. Gordon and I feel it's best if we just table Any heavy discussions, the will, the estate, all that dreadful paperwork. It's Christmas, after all, not a time for squabbling. A decree, not a request, a command. Don't mention the will. I watch my father. He turns, instantly, toward the sideboard. He picks up the dish towel he's still holding. He begins to polish an already spotless silver gravy boat. He hasn't heard a thing. He is a master of selective deafness. He has made an art form of non-existence. From outside, faint but clear, the bells of St. Ember Church begin to chime. 7 o'clock, and with the bells, another sound, the high, reedy voices of the children's choir, practicing their opening number on the church steps across the green. They're singing, "O Little Town of Bethlehem." The sound is pure, innocent, and completely out of place. It feels like a soundtrack laid over the wrong scene. "Rowan, you're staring at the ham. Don't tell me you've gone vegetarian on us, too," Marla says. The relatives chuckle. "Just admiring the glaze, Marla," I say. My voice is steady, too steady. We sit. The seating is, of course, strategic. I am placed between Uncle Mike, who smells of whiskey, and Cousin Jan, who is texting under the table. Marla is at one end, my father at the other. He is fussing with the carving knife, but he hasn't moved toward the ham. The small talk begins. The weather, the bad roads, Uncle Mike's retirement plans. I am a ghost at the table, a void they all talk around, until Marla decides to fill it. "It's just so wonderful to have the whole family here," she says, her voice radiating false warmth. "It's been so long since Rowan's graced us with her presence. We were beginning to think that fancy job of hers in the city had made her forget all about her simple little family here in Vermont. Here it comes, the narrative." "It's a demanding job," I say, keeping my eyes on my empty plate. "Oh, I'm sure," she counters, her tone dripping with saccharine condescension. "All those numbers, it must be very taxing. It's a shame it kept you away for so long, especially last year, when your grandmother was so ill." My fork stops halfway to the water glass. The choir outside swells. The hopes and fears of all the years. "I was there, Marla. I was there when she passed." "At the very end." "Yes," Marla concedes, as if granting me a point. "But the months before, when the real work was being done, when your father and I were handling the estate, the nurses, the endless bills, you were occupied. It's just what she does. Rowan runs away when things get hard. She always has." The words hang in the air, thick and toxic. She runs away. This is the story she has sold them. This is the lie that covers the tracks of the real crime. I can feel the jury shifting in their seats. Aunt Carol nods slightly, sympathetically, at Marla. I look to the end of the table. My father, my only ally, by blood if not by courage. He is on his feet. He is looking at the ham. "Smells like the glaze might be catching," he mutters, to no one. Let me check the ham." And he's gone, escaped. He walks to the oven, opens the door, and disappears into a cloud of steam. His back to me, his back to the truth, his back to everything. He is checking out. The familiar hollow ache of his cowardice settles in my stomach. I am alone. My hand, under the table, lifts to my throat. My fingers find the locket. It's heavy, silver. An Art Nouveau swirl of lilies. It was Iris's. My grandmother gave it to me 2 Christmases ago, before she got sick. Marla thinks it's a dusty piece of junk. She doesn't know what it really is. My thumb finds the small, ornamental bud on the side. I press it. Not a click, just a tiny tactile give. A small, green LED, the size of a pinprick, flashes once against the fabric of my sweater. Unseen, it's on. The black box is recording. The high-fidelity microphone is capturing Marla's voice, the clink of silver, the rumble of my father pretending to baste a ham, and the faint, sweet sound of the children singing Silent Night. I look up. Marla is watching me, a small, triumphant smirk playing on her lips. She thinks she's scored a direct hit. She thinks she has reinforced the narrative. Rowan is the ungrateful, absent daughter. Marla is the long-suffering saint. She decides to twist the knife, to drive the point home for the jury. We all have to make sacrifices. Rowan, you just seem to think you're exempt. Your father and I, we've done everything for this family. Everything. She picks up her wineglass. It's a shame, really. All that potential you had. You were so smart, but you just threw it away. Good thing you had help with that college fund back in the day, wasn't it, Gordon? She calls to him, knowing he won't answer. She isn't talking to him. She's talking to me. That college fund, the one that evaporated my senior year of high school, the one that forced me to take 3 jobs, to apply for a dozen scholarships, to claw my way into a state school instead of the Ivy League acceptance I had earned, the fund my mother left me. Help, Marla calls it. I feel the blood drain from my face, but I don't break eye contact. The old me would have screamed. The old me would have cried. The old me would have thrown the plate and proven Marla's entire case. The new me is a data analyst. The new me understands that an outburst is just noise. What you need is the signal. I let the silence stretch. I let the relatives look awkward. I let my father fiddle with the oven rack. The choir outside is reaching the crescendo of joy to the world. I take a slow, steady breath. I am not here for a fight. I am here for an audit. You know, Marla, I say, my voice quiet, clear, and perfectly calm. I've been meaning to ask you about that help. She blinks. This is not the script. I am not supposed to be calm. Tonight, I say, we are going to pull that curtain all the way back. Her smile wavers. The data is all collected. The query is running. And tonight, right here at this mahogany table of lies, I am going to present the findings. Marla's voice hangs in the air. But I am no longer at the table. I am 17. The memory is not a warm, hazy thing. It is a precise numerical data point. I am standing at the teller window of the Northbridge Savings Bank. It is October 2nd. College applications are due in less than a month. I am checking the balance of the education trust my mother, Ellen, set up before she died, a fund that, according to the last paper statement I'd seen, contained $64,200. The teller, Mrs. Gable, is a woman who has known me since I was born. She will not look me in the eye. Rowan, honey, she says, her fingers clicking too slowly on the keyboard. That account, it appears it was closed. Closed? That's not possible. It's a trust. It was consolidated, dear, by your father. On August 12th, the balance was transferred. Transferred where? Into the new Callaway Family General Fund. I remember the silence, the beige countertop, the cheap, chained-down ballpoint pen, the smell of recycled air and old pennies. I walked home, my footsteps hollow on the pavement. When I confronted my father, he stared at a spot over my left shoulder, repeating the words Marla had given him. It's just reorganization, Rowan, efficiency. It's all still there. We'll take care of college when the time comes. Don't you worry your head. But when the time came, the money was gone. A market dip, Marla had explained, sipping her tea. These things are volatile. You waited too long. My mother died when I was 9. She was warmth and chaos and the smell of turpentine and lavender. My father, Gordon, was lost without her. He floated through the house like a ghost for a year, a man defined by absence. Then Marla Whitcomb arrived. She was introduced as a freelance accountant, a friend of a friend. She came to help Gordon with the books for his small hardware store, which was bleeding money. She was, in her own words, exceptionally good at organizing the books. She organized everything. My mother's paintings were moved to the attic. The mismatched, comfortable furniture was replaced with stiff, coordinated sets, and she consolidated my father. She married him within 6 months, on a gray Tuesday in March. Her first act as Mrs. Callaway was to streamline the family finances. She incorporated her own consulting business, a shell company I would later discover, Whitcomb Advisory, LLC. It's for tax purposes, darling, she told the family. It just makes sense. She was a woman of sharp angles and the faint, acidic scent of Windex. She replaced love with efficiency. When the $64,000 vanished, I did not collapse. I recalibrated. My acceptance letters, Brown, Dartmouth, became bitter jokes. I couldn't touch them, so I activated my contingency plan. I was already working at the town library, shelving books for $9 an hour. I added the early morning shift at the Northbridge Diner, from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., smelling of bacon grease and stale coffee as I walked into my first period calculus class. At night, from 9 p.m. to midnight, I cleaned the offices of a local insurance broker, vacuuming identical gray cubicles, my mind filled with spreadsheets of my own. 3 jobs, 18 hours of school. I got into the University of Vermont with a combination of state grants and the Vermont Granite Scholarship. I commuted. I kept the 3 jobs. I graduated in 3.5 years, summa cum laude, with a degree in data science. At the departmental awards ceremony, where I accepted my honors, the 2 seats reserved for Callaway G were empty. No one was there. My father had called that morning. Marla's not feeling up to it, kiddo. And the drive, well, you understand. I understood perfectly. Their absence was not an oversight. It was a statement. It was the corroborating evidence of my irrelevance. I moved to Boston. I got the job at Northlight Analytics. I was good at it. I was ruthless. I built a life 190 miles away, a life where my performance was measured in data, not in my capacity to endure Marla's psychological warfare. Then, 2 years ago, the first real clue arrived. It was a standard, letter-sized envelope, anonymous, postmarked Northbridge. Inside, there were no threats, no explanations, just 3 pages of photocopied bank statements. They were from the month my college fund disappeared. They showed, in stark black and white, a single wire transfer, August 12th, the exact amount, $50,000, not transferred to the Callaway Family General Fund as I'd been told. It was transferred to an account at a different bank. The recipient, Whitcomb Advisory, LLC. I sat in my Boston apartment, the city lights gleaming outside, and I felt the cold, sharp click of the world snapping into focus. It wasn't incompetence. It wasn't a market dip. It was theft, deliberate, calculated, and executed by the freelance accountant. I drove home that weekend, not to my father's house, but to Maple Corner, my grandmother's house. Iris Callaway was the only Callaway who ever made sense. She was granite. She saw everything. I laid the photocopies on her kitchen table, under the warm yellow light. She studied them, her fingers tracing the routing number. She didn't say, "I'm so sorry." She didn't offer comfort. She offered strategy. "Your father's a fool, Rowan," she said, her voice dry as paper. "He always has been. But Marla, she's a predator, and you must never, ever fight a predator when you are empty-handed. They will call you hysterical. They will call you a liar. And they will eat you alive." She tapped the paper. "This is a start, but it's not enough. She's covered her tracks. You're a numbers girl. Go find the rest of the numbers. Go collect the receipts." The next time I visited, just before she got sick, she gave me the locket. "Your grandfather gave this to me in 1960, she said, pressing the heavy, ornate silver piece into my palm. It was Art Nouveau, a swirl of lilies. But I had it, updated, for the modern age. She showed me the bail, the loop where the chain connects, a nearly invisible seam. A jeweler I trust in Burlington, he gutted it. It wasn't an heirloom, it was a piece of equipment. The original locket was just a housing. Inside was a high-fidelity, solid-state microphone and a micro-recorder. "It's good for 12 hours, she said, her eyes sharp. "The truth is loud, Rowan. But people are deaf, especially your father. You need to learn to record the truth. You need evidence that can't be explained away as market adjustments." Iris's illness was fast, a bone cancer that hollowed her out. I took leave from Northlight and sat with her for her final weeks at Maple Corner. The house was quiet, filled with the scent of old wood, lemon oil, and the sterile tang of medication. Marla rarely visited. Hospitals, she'd claimed, depress me. One afternoon, a wave of morphine had worn off, leaving Iris terribly lucid. She gripped my wrist. Her skin was like tissue paper. "The will," she whispered. "It's safe, with Harrison." Mr. Harrison was the family lawyer, a man older than the trees on the town green. "Tell him. Check the sunset clause. For Maple Corner." "What is it, grams?" She took a ragged breath. "The house. It doesn't just pass to Gordon. He's too weak. It passes. It passes to the one who knows how to preserve." She smiled, a tiny pained grimace. "Marla thinks preserve means putting in new countertops. She'll try to steal it. Rowan, she'll try to turn it into her monument. But preserve doesn't mean renovate. It means, remember, it goes to the one who keeps the receipts." She died 2 days later. The funeral was a performance. Marla, draped in black, accepting condolences for a loss she didn't feel. My father, gray and translucent, shaking hands and forgetting names. After the relatives had left with their empty casserole dishes, I went to Iris's desk at Maple Corner, the top drawer, where she kept her most important papers in a worn, leather-bound portfolio, was tidy, too tidy. Marla organized. The portfolio was gone. The worn, folded copy of the will she always kept there vanished. A cold dread, familiar and sharp, settled in my stomach. I called Mr. Harrison's office immediately. His assistant, a woman named Beth, sounded flustered. "Ms. Calloway, I'm so sorry. Mr. Harrison had an incident just after the funeral. A minor stroke," they said. "He's on indefinite medical leave." "I need the file for Iris Calloway's estate," I said, my voice tight. "I can't. I'm sorry. All of Mr. Harrison's active files have been temporarily sealed by the partners. Pending a review of his cases, we can't access anything." A disappearing will, a conveniently incapacitated lawyer, Marla wasn't just covering her tracks. She was eradicating the map. I stood on the porch of Maple Corner. The wind was cold. She was going to take this house. She was going to erase Iris. She was going to erase my mother. She was going to erase me. I got in my car and drove back to Boston. I didn't just return to my job. I became my job. I stopped being Rowan Calloway, the grieving granddaughter. I became the lead analyst. For the next year, I didn't just track market collapses. I tracked Whitcomb Advisory LLC. I tracked Ridgetop Catering. I tracked the flow of money from my father's accounts. I built a shadow ledger, a complete forensic reconstruction of Marla's greed. I vowed I would not return to that dining room. I would not sit at that table. I would not eat her food until I had every single piece of data. And now, tonight, as I sit here with the Locket recording, I have it. I have it all. I flew into Burlington 1 week before Christmas. I told Northlight I was taking a personal leave. I told my father I was coming home to help get the house ready for the holidays. A lie. I was coming home to conduct a final audit. My father's house felt smaller, the air thicker. Marla was out, at a charity luncheon. Gordon was, as always, tinkering in the basement. It left me blessedly alone. I didn't search. I documented. My phone was my tool. I started in my father's study, a room Marla had long since claimed. The small, wall-mounted safe was behind a framed print of a generic sailboat. I didn't need the combination. I just needed the model number. I photographed the keypad, the serial number on the hinge, the manufacturer's logo. A quick search on my laptop. A standard, mid-level fireproof box, easily bypassed by a professional, or more likely, easily accessed by someone who shared a bank account and knew my father's birthday. In his desk drawer, beneath a pile of dried-out pens and hardware store receipts, I found them. The old passbooks, one for the original family account, one for my mother's trust. both stamped closed in thick red ink. I photographed the covers, the account numbers, the last few entries, and the serial number of the books themselves. Physical artifacts, data points. I went to the utility closet. The gas bills were filed neatly. Compliments of Marla's efficiency. I photographed the last 18 months of statements. The usage was low, consistent, except for 3 days last November. Right after Mr. Harrison's stroke, the gas usage spiked. The furnace was running non-stop. Why? Because someone was spending hours in the cold, damp attic or the unfinished basement, sorting through Iris's files. Someone was burning paper in the fireplace. The house was empty those 3 days. My father was at the store, and Marla, according to her own laminated calendar on the fridge, was at an accounting seminar in Rutland. She wasn't. She was here, cleaning the data trail. I went next door. Mrs. Leary was, as always, watching the street from her sunroom. She offered me stale gingerbread. I accepted. We talked about the snow, about the new stoplight in town. I mentioned I was sorting some of Graham's old things. "Such a shame," she said, peering over her glasses. "Your grandmother was so meticulous. Iris kept everything." "I know. It's a lot to go through." "Well, I'm just glad that nice woman from the lawyer's office finally picked up the last of those boxes. It seemed to weigh on your grandmother, having them sit there." My pulse didn't quicken. It held. "From the lawyer's office? When was that?" "Oh, just before she, while she was in the hospital. Poor dear. A tall woman, very severe, in a dark blue car. She said Mr. Harrison had sent her for the estate documents. I helped her carry one box. It was heavy. A stranger, not Marla. A proxy. A cutout. Mr. Harrison, already ailing, wouldn't have sent a stranger. He would have sent Beth. Marla had hired someone to impersonate a paralegal. She was thorough. That night, back in my old childhood bedroom, I built the map. My laptop screen glowed in the dark, the only light in the room. I used the same visualization software I used at Northlight to track shell corporations for our clients. The money path was almost elegant in its depravity. First, the $50,000 transfer from my mother's trust. It didn't just go to Whitcomb Advisory LLC. It sat there. It sat for exactly 91 days, just long enough to be classified as a quarterly asset, not immediate income. Then, it moved. Not all at once. It was laundered, in small, irregular increments, to a second entity, Ridgetop Catering. I had been stuck on Ridgetop for months. It was registered to a P.O. box in Stowe. It had no website, no clients, no health department permits. It was a ghost, a perfectly crafted void for pouring money into. The registered agent, the legal name on the documents, was Kyle J. Brecht. It took me 2 weeks of deep-dive database cross-referencing to find him. Kyle J. Brecht was not a caterer. He was a 21-year-old student, Marla's stepbrother, or more accurately, her mother's son from a brief, disastrous second marriage. Kyle was currently, according to his social media, on a gap year studying photography in Prague. Funded, no doubt, by my mother's trust. He was the perfect absentee owner. He probably didn't even know his name was on the paperwork. Marla had used her own stepbrother as a firewall, turning my inheritance into his European vacation. The map on my screen was a web of blatant, arrogant fraud. But I needed the internal communication. I needed the why. I found my opening on my father's ancient desktop computer, still running Windows Vista. Relegated to a corner of the kitchen. He used it for one thing. Email, his old, unsecure Northbridge net account. He was already logged in. I didn't have to break in. I just had to sit in his chair. His inbox was a sea of spam and hardware store newsletters, but in his sent folder, from over a year ago, was a password reset confirmation from the family's online banking portal. He had forwarded it to Marla. "I keep forgetting the new one," his message read. This meant she had his password, but it also meant I could get it. I went to the bank's login page. I typed in his username. Gordo Calloway. I clicked Forgot Password. The security question appeared on the screen, a question Marla herself had almost certainly set. The irony was bitter. What is your favorite hymn? My father, a man of profound spiritual apathy, had only one connection to religion: his love of Christmas music. He didn't just like it, he revered it, in the same way he revered a well-oiled table saw. I knew where to go. The next morning, I walked to St. Ember. The choir was practicing for the Christmas Eve service. I found the choir master, Mr. Abernathy, sorting sheet music in his small, cold office. Rowan Calloway, my goodness, what brings you back to us? I'm working on a Christmas gift for my father. I lied. A framed piece of music. I'm trying to remember his favorite hymn, the one he always requested for the Christmas Eve service. Mr. Abernathy smiled, a genuine, warm expression. Oh, that's easy. Gordon, every year, without fail, since before you were born, he insists on the full, unabridged version of Hark the Herald Angels Sing, loves the descant on the third verse, says it has structure. I thanked him. I walked back to the house. The air was cold, sharp. I sat at the kitchen computer. Marla was out. My father was at the store. I went to the bank's portal. Forgot password. What is your favorite hymn? My fingers were steady on the keyboard. Attempt 1. Hark, the herald angels sing. Answer incorrect. Please try again. Of course, the punctuation. Too complex. Marla would have simplified it. Attempt 2. Hark the herald angels sing. The screen refreshed. Password reset link has been sent to your email. I was in. I didn't go to his email. I went back to the login page and used the new password I had just created. I logged in as Gordon Calloway. It wasn't the bank statements I needed. I already had those. I needed the secure document folder, the place the bank offered for safe digital storage. The folder was named, simply, Household. Inside, Marla's entire operation was laid bare. She had used my father's account as her personal filing cabinet. There were photographs of receipts, the new kitchen at Maple Corner, categorized under estate repairs, a new piano for her own living room, filed under donations, drafts of increasingly frantic letters to Mr. Harrison, the lawyer, demanding he release the estate funds, all written as if from my father. And then I found it. The file was named Maintenance Allocation Final, PDF. I opened it. It was a one-page document. Asset reallocation for maintenance purposes. It was a directive, authorizing the liquidation of the Maple Corner Trust, Iris's Trust, and the transfer of all assets into Whitcomb Advisory LLC for overseeing necessary structural and maintenance repairs. It was a complete fiction. It was the legal cover she needed to gut my grandmother's legacy. And at the bottom, a signature. Gordon Calloway. It wasn't his. I had seen my father's signature my entire life. It was lazy, rounded, sloping to the right. This signature was precise, sharp, and perfectly horizontal. It was Marla's handwriting, meticulously faking his. She had forged it. This was the gun. It was smoking. I saved everything. I copied the entire digital vault onto a thumb drive so small it looked like a wireless mouse dongle. The day before Christmas Eve, I did my final prep. The relatives were coming. The performance was set. I went to the dining room. On the mahogany sideboard, next to the heavy silver candle holders, was a matching silver cup, filled with pens for guests to sign the holiday guest book, another one of Marla's traditions. I added my own, a simple, black ballpoint pen, indistinguishable from the others, except this one had a high-definition lens where the clicker should be, and 64 gigabytes of internal storage. I angled it, positioning it in the cup so it had a clear, wide-angle view of the entire table, focusing on the two head seats, my father's and Marla's. My stage was set. My last act was insurance. I sat in my car, outside a coffee shop with a secure public network. I compiled a technical summary, a one-page executive brief, just like I would for Northlight. It contained the key account numbers, the two company names, Whitcomb and Ridgetop, the PDF file name, and the name of the jeweler in Burlington who had modified the locket. I encrypted the file. I attached it to an email. I sent it to Elena Ward. Ward was the new district attorney for the county. She'd run on a platform of total transparency and rooting out elder fraud. I had donated to her campaign. We had never met. The subject line was blank. The body of the email contained only 11 words. If I disappear before January 1st, open this file. I hit send. The data was backed up. The dead man's switch was active. I drove to my father's house. I was ready for Christmas dinner. The table is a performance of grotesque abundance. Marla has outdone herself. The honey-glazed ham, studded with cloves, sits like a crown jewel in the center. It is flanked by dishes of steaming mince pies, bowls of brandied cranberries, and a glistening bread pudding that smells of nutmeg and bourbon. Bottles of sweet, heavy Vermont ice wine are already open, their gold foil catching the candlelight. It is a portrait of rustic, New England prosperity, a complete fabrication, paid for with my mother's trust and my grandmother's estate. My father brings the ham to the table. He lifts it with a focused gravity, as if he is handling a sacred artifact. His brow is furrowed. This is his role. He is the carver, the patriarch. As long as he is tending to the meat, he is safe. We all sit. The scraping of the heavy mahogany chairs against the wooden floor is the only sound, until Marla lifts her glass. To family, she says, her voice bright and brittle, and to making new memories. We drink. The wine is cloying, thick as syrup. It coats my throat. I set the glass down. From outside, the choir at St. Ember concludes, "O little town of Bethlehem." There is a pause, a collective intake of breath, and then the air is filled with a bright, manic energy. Deck the halls. The repetitive, joyful fa-la-la-la-la feels like a hammer, a rhythmic, cheerful pounding against the house. It is the countdown. "Gordon, the ham looks divine," Aunt Carol coos, her eyes fixed on the glaze. "It's all about the temperature," my father mutters, already halfway into his performance. He lifts the carving knife. "Oh, it's not just the ham," Marla says, pulling her phone from the small, beaded purse by her plate. She taps the screen. "We've been so busy. I haven't had a chance to show anyone the progress on our little family venture." She hands the phone to Uncle Mike. "Just swipe through. It's the Ridgetop project. We're finally getting the industrial kitchen up to code." Uncle Mike squints at the small screen. "My goodness, that's a professional setup. Marla, what is all this?" "It's a high-end catering concept," Marla says, accepting the phone back and passing it to Aunt Carol. "Boutique, farm to table, for the ski crowd in Stowe. It's Gordon's passion project, really. Aren't you, dear?" My father grunts, his focus entirely on slicing the ham. All Marla's idea. She's the one with the head for business. Aunt Carol is swiping. "Oh, Marla, this is stunning. The tile. And that stove? It looks like it belongs in a restaurant." "We're sparing no expense," Marla says. I don't need to see the phone. I know exactly what it contains. I saw the receipts in the household folder. But Marla, determined to play her part, leans across the table and pushes the phone toward me. "Rowan, look, you're the one from the city. You'll appreciate this." I take the phone. My hand is perfectly steady. I swipe. Photo 1. A gleaming, 6-burner stainless steel wolf range. Photo 2. A wide-angle shot of a gray, herringbone-tiled floor. Photo 3. A massive white farmhouse sink. She was sloppy. In the third photo, through the newly installed picture window above the sink, you can see the unmistakable, ancient branches of the sugar maple that dominates the backyard of Maple Corner. This is not a ridgetop project. This is Iris's kitchen. This is my grandmother's house. She has gutted it. She has turned Iris's sanctuary, the place that smelled of old books and lemon oil, into an industrial kitchen for a ghost company named after her stepbrother. This is the maintenance she forged my father's name to approve. I swipe to the next photo. It's Marla, in a hard hat, posing with a contractor. She is smiling. She looks proud. I hand the phone back to her. My voice is quiet. That's quite a stove. Isn't it? Aunt Carol beams. Marla, you are just a whirlwind. I don't know how you do it. First, taking care of poor Iris, then managing Gordon's accounts. And now this. You're a miracle worker. Someone has to be diligent, Marla says, casting a pointed glance at me. Some of us build, others just criticize. My father nods, agreeing with the assessment. He places a thick, perfect slice of ham on Marla's plate. He avoids my eyes. He is a ghost. He is a coward in a cashmere sweater. The choir outside is frantic. See the blazing Yule before us. Fa la 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 la. Marla leans back, savoring her victory. The jury is on her side. She has established her diligence, her vision. Now, she moves to cement my role as the antagonist. She needs to provoke me, to make me the problem. Rowan, you're awfully quiet, she says, her tone shifting to one of mock concern. You barely touched your wine. Be careful with that glass. Dear, you know how you get. I look at her. How do I get, Marla? She laughs, a small, airy sound, and addresses the table. Oh, Lord, you should have seen her as a child. A little bull in a china shop. Do you remember Gordon, that porcelain shepherdess, the one that was her mother's? My father stops carving. He looks down at the ham. He knows this story. Rowan just had to play with it, Marla continues, her voice dripping with false sympathy. I told her, that's not a toy, honey. That's precious. And what do you know? Not 10 minutes later, smashed to 1,000 pieces on the hearth. She just breaks things, always has. She can't help it. The table is silent, absorbing the anecdote. The message is clear. Rowan is destructive. Rowan is careless. Rowan does not value her mother's memory. I remember the shepherdess. I remember Marla dusting it. I remember the sound it made when it slipped from her hands. And I remember her telling me, as she swept up the pieces, this will be our secret, but you need to learn to be more careful. I was 10. I believed her. I look at her now. The locket is warm against my skin. The pen camera is staring right at her. The old me would have screamed, "You broke it! You've always been a liar!" And the jury would have seen exactly what Marla wanted. The hysterical, unstable daughter, ruining Christmas with old, unsubstantiated stories. I do not take the bait. I let the silence hang for a moment. The choir outside finishes its manic refrain. There is a pause, a breath. Then, a new song begins. A single, clear soprano voice. What child is this? Who, laid to rest? The shift in tone is perfect. The air in the room is suddenly sharp, focused. I pick up my napkin and place it in my lap. I look directly at Marla. My voice is not accusatory. It is not emotional. It is the voice I use in the boardroom when I have found a discrepancy in the quarterly reports. You mentioned my college fund earlier. Marla, the help I received. Marla's smile tightens. This is not the script. I have a specific question for you, I continue, my voice perfectly level. On August 12th, 2013, did you authorize the withdrawal of the entire $64,000 balance of my mother's education trust? The silence that falls is not awkward. It is absolute. It is a vacuum. Uncle Mike's fork, halfway to his mouth, stops. Aunt Carol's breath catches in her throat. My father. My father. My father. He drops the carving knife. It clatters against the ceramic platter, a sound like a gunshot in the quiet room. Rowan, he says, his voice a desperate rasp. Not now. It's Christmas. For God's sake, don't ruin this. He turns his back on me. He walks to the sideboard. He picks up a potholder. He straightens the trivet under the ham. He is checking the ham. He is always checking the ham. I do not look at him. I keep my eyes on Marla. She recovers quickly. She has been preparing for this. She lets out a short, sharp laugh. It sounds like breaking glass. My God, Rowan, she scoffs, turning to the relatives as if to say, "See? What did I tell you? Are you truly still obsessed with that? That was 10 years ago. I was trying to protect your father's assets. It was a strategic adjustment." Aunt Carol exhales, relieved. Of course, a strategic adjustment. It's just money. It's just accounting. Marla is the expert. Rowan is being dramatic. "The family finances were a mess when I arrived," Marla continues, gaining momentum. She is the heroine again, the one who saved them. "Everything was scattered. It was irresponsible. I consolidated the assets. It was simple, prudent financial management, something a child wouldn't understand." "So you did move it," I say. "I managed it, Rowan, which is more than anyone else in this family was willing to do, including you." She leans back, victorious. She has confessed, but she has framed it as a virtue. She has won. I nod. I look down at the purse by my feet. The choir outside is building. The violins are soaring. This is Christ the King. I reach into my bag. I pull out a simple 9x12 manila envelope. It is unmarked. It is thin. I place it on the table. The room tenses again. "You call it management, Marla," I say, my voice still quiet. "My bank calls it a wire transfer." I slide the envelope across the lace tablecloth. It stops, perfectly, just beside her wineglass. She stares at it. Her hand does not move. "What is this?" she whispers. "It's the first receipt," I say, "from Whitcomb Advisory, LLC. Outside, the song reaches its peak. The full choir roars. "Hark! The herald angels sing. Glory to the newborn King." The air in the room is not just tense. It is thin. It is stretched to the breaking point. It is about to snap. Marla's hand, the one not holding the wine glass, hovers over the manila envelope. She doesn't touch it. She stares at it as if it is a snake, a small, flat, paper-colored snake that has just appeared on her pristine table. The entire room is holding its breath, a collective vacuum. The only sound is the choir, now moving into the triumphant, brassy fanfare of "Hark, the herald angels sing." Her eyes, cold and assessing, lift from the envelope to my face. They are searching for a tell, a flicker of weakness. Am I bluffing? Is this a dramatic, empty gesture from the ungrateful daughter? "What is this?" she repeats, her voice a low hiss, the forced graciousness completely gone. "It's the receipt," I say again, my voice unchanging. "For the $50,000, the one from Whitcomb Advisory." That is when she moves. It is not a gesture of curiosity. It is an act of aggression, a lunge. Her hand darts out, not to open the envelope, but to seize it. She snatches it from the lace, a predator taking prey. In the sudden, violent movement, her other hand, the one with the wineglass, jerks. The glass tips, not falling over completely, but lunging just enough. The heavy, sweet red ice wine splashes across the pristine, white lace tablecloth. It looks like a wound, a dark arterial spray. It spreads instantly, soaking into the intricate, decades-old threads. It creeps toward the platter of ham. It stains the edges of Aunt Carol's bread plate. No one moves to stop it. We just watch it spread. A confession in Cabernet, stark and ugly. Marla doesn't even notice. She has the envelope. She is tearing at the flap, her knuckles white, ripping the paper with a savage intensity. I stand up. My chair scrapes back against the wooden floor. A harsh, wooden groan that cuts through the music. The shift in elevation is a shift in power. I am no longer the child being lectured at the table. I am the auditor, standing to present my findings. "You called it a strategic adjustment. Marla," I say. My voice is not loud, but it cuts through everything. The music, the shuffling, the silent horror of the spilled wine. "The legal term is embezzlement. Did you move my mother's education trust fund into your shell corporation? Yes or no?" She gets the envelope open. She rips out the single sheet of paper inside. It's the photocopy of the wire transfer, the one from 10 years ago. From the Callaway Family Trust to Whitcomb Advisory LLC. She sees the routing numbers. She sees the amount. She sees her company name. Her face, which had been pale with a controlled, icy anger, flushes a deep, blotchy red, the mask of the gracious hostess, the suffering saint, the financial wizard. It doesn't just slip, it shatters, it disintegrates. She looks at the paper, she looks at me, and she reacts. It is so fast I almost don't process it. She crosses the small space between her chair and mine in one explosive step. Her hand comes up. The sound is not a slap, it is a crack. It is sharp, dry, and absolute, like a dead branch snapping in a frozen forest. It is louder than the music. It is louder than the wine spill. It is the loudest sound I have ever heard in this house. My head snaps to the side, my hair whipping across my face. The sting comes a second later. A bloom of white-hot fire across my left cheek. The force of it is stunning. I taste copper. I've bitten the inside of my lip. The room goes dead silent. The choir outside seems to mute. The entire world reduced to the high-pitched ringing in my ear and the sudden, sharp scent of Marla's perfume, a heavy, expensive gardenia smell that now, and forever, will smell like violence. And then, the vacuum is filled. The ham! It is my father's voice. It is a desperate, strangled yelp. My God, the ham is burning. The glaze. He lurches, not toward me, not toward his wife, but toward the kitchen. He grabs the oven mitts from the counter. He rips open the oven door. A cloud of manufactured smoke and the smell of scorching sugar billows out, creating a literal smokescreen for his cowardice. He plunges his hands into the oven. He is rattling the pan. He is saving the ham. He has made his choice, in the moment of ultimate confrontation, in the choice between his daughter's bloodied lip and a piece of overcooked pork. He chose the pork. The rest of the jury dissolves. This is what they were afraid of. A scene, real, ugly, physical confrontation. This is the breakdown of the polite fiction they came here to enjoy. Uncle Mike, the whiskey drinker, suddenly finds the ceiling fascinating. He leans back, his head tilted, staring straight up, as if inspecting the plaster for cracks. He will not look at me. He will not look at Marla. He has vanished. Aunt Carol, her face pale and slack, bursts into a dry, racking cough, a fake, theatrical hack that serves only to cover the silence. She fumbles for her water glass, her hand shaking, rattling the ice. Cousin Jan just drops her head, her hair falling forward to hide her face, and her thumbs begin to move with frantic, silent speed under the table, texting everyone she knows. OMG, you will not believe what is happening. They are all cowards. They are all complicit. Their silence is their verdict. They will let it happen, as long as it doesn't involve them. I turn my head back, slowly. The movement is deliberate. I look directly at Marla. She is breathing heavily, her chest heaving. The front of her burgundy dress is flecked with red wine. She looks manic, her carefully constructed helmet of hair slightly askew. Her hand is still raised, slightly, as if she is considering a second strike. She is waiting. She is waiting for me to scream. She is waiting for me to cry. She is waiting for me to lunge at her, to grab her hair, to throw a plate. She is waiting for me to prove I am the bull in a china shop, the one who breaks things. She needs me to be hysterical, so her violence can be reframed as self-defense against the unstable daughter. I do none of those. My hand, hidden by the table, lifts to my throat. I don't rub my cheek, though it burns. I don't wipe the small trickle of blood from my lip. I touch the locket. My thumb brushes against the cold, ornamental silver bud of the lily. Tucked just inside my collar, I feel it, a single, steady vibration, a confirmation. The pinprick green light, I know, is glowing steadily against the dark fabric. The microphone is active. The solid-state drive is recording. It has it all. The question, the clatter of the knife as my father dropped it, the ripping sound as she tore the envelope, the sharp, percussive crack of the impact, my father's yelp about the ham, Aunt Carol's fake cough. It has the evidence. Marla sees my stillness. My lack of reaction is, to her, a greater provocation than any scream. It is defiance. It is control, and she cannot stand it. "You," she sputters, pointing a trembling finger at me. Her voice is no longer a hiss. It is a raw, jagged shriek. "You. Ungrateful. Bitch. After everything I did. Everything I sacrificed for this family." "Sacrificed?" I ask. My voice is thick, and the word is slightly blurred by my swollen lip, but it is clear. "Yes," she screams. The word is torn from her, a guttural sound. "I saved this family. I saved this house. I saved your father from bankruptcy when you ran away to your fancy job. That money was nothing. It was a fee. It was what I was owed for cleaning up the mess your mother left, and the mess you abandoned." There it is. The slap was noise. That was the signal. It is no longer a strategic adjustment. It is no longer prudent financial management. It is a fee. It is what she was owed. It is a confession, recorded in high-fidelity audio. Outside, as if on cue, the choir, having finished the drama of "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," moves to its next piece. The tone shifts. It is "Angels We Have Heard on High." The music swells into the joyful, cascading refrain, a bright, ringing, major chord. Glo-o-o-o-o-ria. The irony is so beautiful, so perfect, it is almost painful. A small, genuine smile touches my lips, the one that isn't bleeding. I look at Marla, who is still breathing fire, her face a mask of righteous rage. I whisper it, so quiet that only she and the microphone can hear. "Thank you for that." Her eyes narrow. She doesn't understand. She is still vibrating with adrenaline, still waiting for the fight. I am no longer in a fight. I am in the post-mortem. My left hand, which has been resting in my lap, moves to the watch on my wrist. It's a simple, black fitness tracker. I press the side button. Twice, a quick, practiced motion. A small, haptic buzz answers against my skin. The locket stops recording, the audio file is finalized, encrypted, and begins its immediate, secure upload via the personal hotspot in my pocket. It is sent to 3 redundant, encrypted cloud servers. At the same time, the pen camera on the sideboard, which has been staring, unblinking, at the head of the table, receives the same signal. It has captured the entire scene in wide-angle high definition. The wine, the forgery on the paper, the slap, my father's retreat. It finalizes its own file and begins its upload. The data is no longer in the room. It is in the cloud. It is safe. It is permanent. The performance is over. It is time for the presentation. Marla is still vibrating with the force of her own scream. It was what I was owed. The words hang in the air, thick and rancid. She is waiting for me to engage, to match her rage, to descend into a physical screaming fight. She needs me to become the monster so she can be the victim. I do not. I just look at her. I let the silence stretch, filled only by the sounds of my father clattering a blackened ham pan in the kitchen and Aunt Carol's insistent, dry coughing. "You're right, Marla," I say, my voice surprisingly clear, though my lip is starting to swell. "It wasn't a strategic adjustment. It was a fee. You've confessed to the motive. Now we just need to verify the accounts for the jury." I look away from her, toward the rest of the table, to Uncle Mike, still studying the ceiling, to Aunt Carol, now fanning herself with a napkin, to Cousin Jan, who is watching, wide-eyed, her phone still gripped in her hand. I take my own phone from my pocket. Marla's eyes narrow to slits. "What are you doing? Put that phone away. No more recordings. This is a private family dinner." "I'm just sharing the minutes of the meeting." "Marla," I say, my thumb tapping the screen. "Since you're so good at organizing, I thought you'd all appreciate the appendix." My thumb hits the send button on a pre-drafted group text. The recipients, Aunt Carol, Uncle Mike, Cousin Jan, and my father's cell phone, which is sitting, forgotten, by his empty plate. A moment later, a symphony of digital noise. A loud buzz from Aunt Carol's purse, a tinny ding from Uncle Mike's breast pocket, a sharp vibrate from the phone on the table. Cousin Jan, already holding hers, just looks down. "What is this?" Uncle Mike says, fumbling for his phone. He is annoyed, as if I have just interrupted his noble act of dissociation. "Check your messages," I say. "I sent the whole family a Christmas card. It's a secure link to a cloud drive. Go ahead and open it. It's titled, Photos and Money Map. Please, be my guests." "Rowan, I will not have this," Marla shouts, taking a step toward me. "Stay where you are, Marla," I say. My voice is flat, cold, and carries an authority she has never heard from me. She stops. Cousin Jan, whose digital literacy is her only redeeming quality, is the first one in. Her thumb clicks the link. Her face, flushed with wine, goes instantly pale. She brings her other hand up to her mouth. Aunt Carol gets the drive open. She squints. "What? What is this?" "Rowan, these are just files." "The first file, Aunt Carol," I say, "is a video. It's titled Signature Practice. Please, play it." Uncle Mike hits play. The small screen illuminates his horrified face. The video is grainy. It's shot from a high angle, from the small, motion-activated camera I'd hidden on top of the kitchen cabinets during my 1-week audit. The timestamp reads 2:17 a.m. from 3 weeks ago. The video shows Marla. She is in her silk bathrobe, a glass of wine on the kitchen counter beside her. The dining room is dark in the background. She is alone. In front of her is a stack of blank paper and one of my father's old bank checks. She is practicing, over and over. The camera records her tracing Gordon Calloway. The loop is mesmerizing, the focused, meticulous repetition. She tries, she fails, she crumples the paper, she tries again. Finally, after nearly 20 minutes, she pulls a single, crisp document from a folder, the maintenance allocation PDF. She takes a deep breath. She picks up a fine-tipped pen, and carefully, with a practiced, steady hand, she forges my father's signature at the bottom. Then she holds it up to the light, a small, satisfied smile on her face. The pen camera in the dining room caught the slap. The kitchen cam caught the forgery. "My God," Uncle Mike whispers. He looks at Marla. He looks at my father, who is now standing frozen in the kitchen doorway, holding a smoking pan. "Gordon, did you see this?" My father just stares, his mouth open. "Keep swiping," I say. The next file is an email from Marla Whitcomb to A1 Renovations. The subject line is Branding Update. I recite it from memory, as they read. As discussed, all future invoices for the Maple Corner property must now be routed through Ridgetop Catering for final payment. Also, please proceed with the new signage for the front gate. We want the Whitcomb House sign installed before January 1st. Please discard the old Maple Corner sign. Aunt Carol lets out a small, wounded sound. "Whitcomb House? But that's Iris's house. That's Maple Corner." "She was erasing her," I say, my voice flat. Just like she tried to erase my mother. She was claiming the spoils. This is out of context," Marla sputters, her eyes darting between the phones. "I was protecting the asset." "Like you protected the church donation?" I ask. Swipe again. The next folder is invoices. You'll see a receipt for $7,000, a community donation to St. Ember, for their new piano. A very generous gift, wasn't it, Marla? You received a lovely write-up in the town paper. "I am a patron of this community," she snaps. "You are a thief," I say. Open the file next to it. It's the actual bill of sale. For a $7,000 piano. Delivered not to the church, but to this house, and the payment wasn't from a donation fund. It was a direct transfer from the Iris Calloway Trust, categorized under entertainment expenses. She bought herself a piano with my grandmother's money, and claimed the tax credit for donating a piano she never bought. Uncle Mike just shakes his head, his face ashen. And the invoices she did pay? I continue. The ones she showed you on her phone? The new kitchen for Ridgetop Catering? I look at Aunt Carol. Look at the last 3 files. The invoices for the Wolf Range, the herringbone tile, and the farmhouse sink. All of them list the delivery address as 128 Maple Corner, Northbridge, Vermont. I turn to the whole table. Ridgetop Catering is a ghost. It's a shell company registered to Marla's 21-year-old stepbrother, who is currently, and very conveniently, in Prague. It has no permits. It has no clients. It is a laundromat for my family's money, and she built her industrial kitchen in my grandmother's house. Marla is white. She is backed against the sideboard, next to the pen camera that is still silently recording her collapse. Lies! These are doctored! You hacker! You faked all of this! This is slander! It's illegal! Is it Marla? I ask. Did I fake the text messages? Too? Swipe again. Aunt Carol. The folder is titled Harrison. It's a text thread between Marla and a cousin of hers in Rutland, the day after Graham's funeral. Cousin Jan is reading it, her hand over her mouth. I'll read it aloud, I say. Marla, need you to do that thing we discussed. The old man is getting frail. I need the house files gone. Cousin. $5,000, right? Marla. Yes. Be the paralegal. Wear the blue suit. I'll pay you the $5,000 when it's done. I look at them. That's the stranger Mrs. Leary saw. Marla didn't just get lucky when Mr. Harrison got sick. She created the vacuum. She had the copy of the will stolen before he even had his stroke, just in case. The room is a tomb. The only sound is the choir. Singing, It Came Upon the Midnight Clear. Why? Aunt Carol whispers. She is crying now. Why would she? Iris. Because of this, I say. I tap my phone one last time. The room fills with a voice. It is not mine. It is not Marla's. It is weak, dry, and sharp as granite. Don't let them call it maintenance. Everyone freezes. It is Iris. The audio clip plays. My father sinks into the nearest dining chair, the blackened ham pan still in his lap. Marla thinks preserve means putting in new countertops. She'll try to steal it. Rowan. She'll try to turn it into her monument. But preserve doesn't mean renovate. It means remember. It goes to the one who keeps the receipts. The audio ends. The silence that follows is deafening. My father looks up, his eyes finally focusing, not on me, but on Marla. He is broken. Marla, I signed things, but I thought it was for maintenance, for the store. You thought what she told you to think. Dad, I say. The anger I feel toward him is cold and old. Look at the last file, the most important one. It's a bank authorization. The one that gave Marla full, unlimited power of attorney over the Callaway Trust and the hardware store accounts. The one that let her do all of this. He is staring at the screen, scrolling. I signed this? Yes, you did, I say. Look at the date, May 14th. Do you remember May 14th, Dad? He just stares, blankly. It was the day you had your wisdom teeth pulled, I say. All 4 of them. You were on Percocet and nitrous oxide for 48 hours. She put that paper in front of you, the day you couldn't even sign your own name, and told you it was a dental insurance form, and you signed it. He looks at his own, genuine, scrawled signature, the one that gave her everything, and he finally understands. Marla lunges for her own phone on the sideboard. I'm calling the police. I'm calling 911. You have assaulted me. You have invaded my privacy. You stole? This is illegal. I will have you arrested. Go ahead, I say. I slide my own phone back into my pocket. The presentation is over. Call them. In fact, they're probably already on their way. Or at least, the DA is. She freezes, her hand on the phone. I'm not the only one with this data. Marla, I am, as you pointed out, a data analyst. I believe in corroboration. I believe in backups. And I believe in chain of custody. I address the table, the jury. In that drive, you will also find a list of witness statements. Mr. Abernathy, the choir master, who is prepared to testify about your call to him, asking to confirm my father's favorite hymn so you could set his password. Mrs. Leary, our neighbor, who gave a perfect description of your cousin in the blue suit, and Mr. Orrin, the jeweler in Burlington, who refitted my grandmother's locket and is prepared to testify that she commissioned it specifically as a defensive measure against suspected financial abuse. I look back at Marla. Her face is the color of ash. Every file you just saw, the audio of your confession, the audio of the assault, the video of the forgery, the forged PDF itself, the bank transfers to Ridgetop Catering, the text messages to your cousin, and my father's sedated signature were all compiled, encrypted, and sent to District Attorney Elena Ward. I glance at my watch. The dead man's switch I set up triggered the moment my watch sent the upload signal from the locket. That was about 4 minutes ago. She has it all. It's not just a family matter anymore. Marla, it's a pending felony case for fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. All the air has left the room. Marla stands frozen, her face a mask of disbelief. The words district attorney have paralyzed her. She is a creature of calculation, and for the first time, her spreadsheet has returned a fatal error. My father is the first to break. He is holding the blackened ham pan, a prop from a tragedy he no longer understands. He looks at the pan. He looks at the forgery on Uncle Mike's phone. He looks at Marla. Gordon? Aunt Carol's voice is a thin, watery plea. He sets the pan down. He places it directly on the lace tablecloth. The heat of it meets the spilled wine. A small, acrid curl of smoke rises. The smell of scorched sugar and burnt linen. He whispers. He is not looking at me. He is looking at Uncle Mike. I didn't know. There it is, the thesis statement of his entire life. She said it was for the hardware store. His voice is hollow, a recording. Insurance forms, taxes. She said it was just paperwork. He looks at Marla. He is begging her. He is begging her to give him a lie he can still use, a lie he can hide inside. Marla says nothing. Her lips are pressed into a thin white line. She is trapped. I didn't read it closely, he says. He says it to the empty chairs. He says it to the ham. He says it to the jury that has already convicted him. He is a man confessing to a lifetime of negligence, and he thinks it is an excuse. He thinks it makes him innocent. It is just another form of cowardice, the most pathetic kind. I do not attack him. I do not list his failures. He is a void. He is an absence. But I need one final data point for the audit. Dad. He flinches. The word is foreign. He finally, turns his eyes to me. He sees me. He sees the bright red imprint of Marla's hand on my cheek. He sees the small, dark bead of blood on my lip. You saw her hit me, I say. It is not a question. It is a line item. Rowan, it happened so fast, he stammers, his hands fluttering near the burnt pan. It was all... Everyone was yelling. You saw it, I state, and you went to the kitchen. He winces. The plain fact is more brutal than any accusation. You checked the ham. He cannot speak. I have one question for you, I say. My voice is steady. All the fire is gone. I am just a person balancing a ledger. He waits. He looks like a man waiting for the axe. Tonight, in that moment, when the choice was right there, plain as day, between the ham oven and your daughter, what did you choose? This is the moral inventory, the final column. He opens his mouth, a dry clicking sound, no words. His eyes, his weak, cowardly eyes, break from mine. They flicker, they dart, involuntarily, to his left, toward the kitchen, toward the open oven door, toward his sanctuary of cowardice. Then his gaze snaps back to my face. He stares at my swollen lip. He looks at the ham. He looks at me, and he says nothing. He cannot answer. He cannot say the words, because he has already answered. He answered with his feet. He answered with the pot holders. He answered with his back. He chose the ham. His silence is his confession, the final, damning proof of his complicity. He is not a victim. He is an accomplice. The tragedy is complete. The room is a morgue. Uncle Mike pushes his chair back. The sound of the wood scraping the floor is violent, obscene. Carol, get your coat. We're going. Aunt Carol, who has been frozen, staring at the key, scrambles for her purse. Her hands are shaking. She is crying, but her tears are not for me. They are for her ruined Christmas, for the embarrassment, for being forced to see the things she had tried so hard to ignore. We had no idea. Rowan, she whispers, fumbling with the clasp. This is a nightmare. If we had known, we never. She is lying. Cousin Jan is already out of her chair. She doesn't say a word. She just grabs her coat from the hall, her face averted, and walks out the front door. A silent, swift escape. Uncle Mike pauses. He has his coat on. He looks at me, his face flushed with whiskey and indignation. He, too, is seeking an escape. He is reframing the narrative. I am the problem. You've gone too far. Rowan, he says, his voice low. This is a family matter. You had no right. Bringing in the law. That's not how we do things. We had no idea, Aunt Carol says again. It is a mantra, an absolution. I look at her. I look at Uncle Mike, the jury, the ones who nodded when Marla called me ungrateful, the ones who laughed at the shepherdess story, the ones who ate the food and never, ever asked a single hard question. You knew, I say. My voice is quiet, but it stops them at the archway. Now, Rowan, that's not fair. Uncle Mike begins. You knew. You all knew. You knew on some level. You knew when the college fund vanished and no one talked about it. You knew when she showed you pictures of this kitchen in that house. You knew the math didn't add up. They are frozen. You didn't not know, I say. You just chose not to see. I let the words land. You heard her tell the story about the shepherdess. You saw the lie. You heard her, not 10 minutes ago, scream that my inheritance was a fee she was owed. You saw her hit me. I looked directly at Uncle Mike. And you? You looked at the ceiling. His face goes dark red. I look at Aunt Carol. And you? You faked a cough. This is the dissection. There is no anesthetic. You are all complicit. Every last one of you who sat here and ate her food. You just didn't want to be rude. You didn't want to spoil the party. Now you're leaving, because the performance is over and you don't want to be here when the bill arrives. Aunt Carol lets out a small, wounded sob. Uncle Mike grabs her arm. That's enough. He pulls her through the archway. We hear the front door open. We hear it slam shut. They are gone. The room is silent. It is just the three of us, the primary triangle, me, my father, slumped in his chair, mourning his own life, and Marla. Marla has been watching. She's been calculating. The witnesses are gone. My father is useless. She has one play left, the one she has perfected. She snatches her phone from the sideboard. You think you're so smart, she hisses. Her voice is shaking, but with adrenaline, not fear. Marla, don't, my father whispers. I am calling 911, she announces. Her voice changes. It becomes high, theatrical, full of a manufactured terror. She stabs the screen. 911, what is your emergency? The operator's voice is tinny, sharp. Help me, Marla screams into the phone. Please, help me. My stepdaughter, Rowan Calloway, she's gone crazy. She attacked me. She's threatening my life. She's destroyed our dinner. She has a weapon. It is a stunning performance. The speed of the pivot from predator to victim. Marla, no, my father gasps. There's no weapon. She hit me, Marla shrieks. I'm at 121 River Street. Please, send someone. I'm afraid for my life. She's violent. I do not try to grab the phone. I do not scream. I just pull my own phone from my pocket. Ma'am, can you describe the weapon? The operator asks. I find the file, the video from the pen camera. I hit play. I turn the volume all the way up. The room is suddenly filled with my own voice. Did you move my mother's education trust fund into your shell corporation? Yes or no? Marla's head snaps toward my phone. She stops screaming. Then, the sound, the sharp, dry, percussive crack of the slap. The operator on Marla's phone hears it. Ma'am, what was that sound? Who is with you? My phone screen, bright in the ruined room, shows the entire event. It shows Marla's hand. It shows my head snapping back. It shows my father running for the ham. Marla's face crumples. The 911 call is dead. Ma'am, I need you to respond. I speak, loud and clear, toward her phone. Officer, my name is Rowan Calloway. The person who just assaulted me is Marla Whitcomb, the woman who made this call. The sound you just heard on my recording was her striking me across the face. I am not armed. She is the one who is violent. However, District Attorney Elena Ward has been notified of this address and is already in possession of the evidence. Please proceed with caution. There is a long, dead silence from Marla's phone. Then, the operator's voice, cold and professional. A unit is being dispatched to 121 River Street. Stand by. Potential domestic situation. The caller is the suspected assailant. Marla drops her phone. It hits the wooden floor with a flat, final thud. It is over. From outside, through the cold glass, the choir at St. Ember begins its next song. The sound is pure, bright, and utterly unaware. O come, all ye faithful. A call to witness, a raw invitation to come and behold the truth. My father is weeping, silent, heaving sobs. He is mourning his cowardice. He is mourning his comfort. Marla is backed against the sideboard, her eyes on the front door, waiting for the sound of the siren. It was never revenge, Marla, I say. My cheek is throbbing. My voice is tired. Tonight was not about burning your life down. This was an audit. This was an inventory. I reach into my coat pocket. My fingers close around cold, old metal. When Grams died, you stole her house. You stole her name. You stole the will. You thought you had erased all the data, but you missed a file. You missed a backup. I pull my hand out. In my palm is a single, heavy, old skeleton key. A worn brass tag is attached, stamped with 2 words, Maple Corner. Grams gave it to me the same day she gave me the locket. Always have an off-site backup. Rowan? I walk to the center of the table. I place the key on the white lace. It lands in the middle of the dark red wine stain, a small bronze island in a sea of blood red. The house was never yours, I say. It was never his to give you. I look at my father. He is staring at the key. I look at Marla. She is staring at the key. The house will return to the right person. The distant, rising wail of a siren cuts through the night. It returns to the one who keeps the receipts. The siren does not scream. It stops, turning into a heavy, idling thrum that pulses against the house. Red and blue lights begin to strobe through the dining room windows, flashing in time with the choir's music. They paint the room in erratic strokes of emergency. The spilled wine, the key on the table, my father's gray face, Marla's white one. A heavy procedural knock sounds at the front door, not the panic of a 911 call. This is an arrival. My father flinches. Marla looks trapped, her eyes darting between me and the door. I am the only one who moves. I walk through the archway and open it. It is not just 2 patrol officers. It is Sheriff Brody, a man who has played poker with my father for 20 years. Beside him, in a severe wool coat, holding a leather briefcase, is a woman I only know from campaign posters, Elena Ward. Her eyes are sharp, focused, and impatient. Ms. Calloway? She asks, her gaze sweeping past me into the house. Yes, thank you for coming, Ms. Ward. I scheduled this safety check for 8 p.m. I glance at my watch. You're right on time. Sheriff Brody's eyes find mine, and then travel to the bright red, swelling mark on my cheek. His folksy demeanor evaporates. Safety check? My father whispers from the dining room. Marla finds her voice. It is the one she used on the 911 dispatcher. High, panicked, and utterly false. Sheriff, thank God. Arrest her. She's gone mad. She attacked me. She broke into my home. She has a weapon. Ward and Brody step inside. They move past me, their boots heavy on the hardwood floor. They are scanning the scene. The ruined table, the spilled wine, the key, the blackened ham, still sitting in its pan on the lace. Rowan, Brody says, his voice a low rumble. He points at my face. Did Marla do that? Yes, I say. It was recorded. Ms. Ward has the file. This is slander. It's an invasion of privacy, Marla shouts. Elena Ward turns to Marla. She does not raise her voice. She does not need to. Her voice is a scalpel. Mrs. Whitcomb, I am District Attorney Elena Ward. We received a comprehensive evidence file from Ms. Calloway approximately 7 minutes ago. We also, via the dispatcher, have a recording of your 911 call, including the audio of your assault, which Miss Calloway played over the line. Marla pales. My office, Ward continues, is opening a formal investigation into multiple felony charges, including, but not limited to, aggravated fraud, forgery, and financial elder abuse. You can't. This is a family matter, Marla sputters. Sheriff, Ward says, turning to Brody, please secure Mrs. Whitcomb's cell phone and any computers in the house, starting with the study. She is not under arrest at this time, but her data is material evidence. We cannot allow spoliation. We have the emergency warrant. A warrant? You have a warrant? Marla's voice cracks. I do. Marla, Brody says. His voice is heavy. This is the part he hates, the part where the town's polite fictions collapse. Hand me the phone, now. Marla looks at his face. He is not Gordon. He is not Uncle Mike. He is the law. Her shoulders slump. She pulls her phone from her purse. Brody takes it, drops it into a gray, padded evidence bag. He nods to his deputy, who is already heading toward the study. The clock is now running. This is not a discussion. This is a procedure. Ward's own phone buzzes. She looks at the screen. Good. That was my office. We have our first corroborations. Mr. Orrin, the jeweler in Burlington, has provided his sworn affidavit. He confirms he was hired by Iris Calloway 2 years ago to retrofit an Art Nouveau locket with a high-fidelity, solid-state recorder. He provided the original work order. The tool is verified. Check. Ward looks at her phone again. And Detective Sanchez just finished his interview at St. Ember. Mr. Abernathy, the choirmaster, confirms he received a call last week from a community fundraiser asking to verify Mr. Gordon Calloway's favorite hymn. The callback number Mr. Abernathy logged traces to a burner phone purchased by you, Marla, at a gas station in Rutland. My father makes a small sound. She said she was asking for my gift. She was setting your password. Dad, I say, my voice flat. It establishes a clear, premeditated effort to gain access to your accounts, Mr. Calloway, Ward says, which she then used to manipulate your assets. The access is verified. Check. And as of 3 minutes ago, Ward says, Northbridge Savings and the Stowe Commercial Bank have both received and executed emergency warrants. All assets, personal and corporate, belonging to Whitcomb Advisory, LLC and Ridgetop Catering are hereby frozen, pending a full forensic audit. Marla lets out a sound, a dry, thin gasp. Her money, my mother's money, is no longer hers to move. The deputy returns from the study, holding Marla's sleek silver laptop. Got the laptop, Sheriff, and a box of files labeled A1 Renovations. Excellent, Ward says. Mr. Phelps at A1 was more than happy to cooperate. He's already provided my office with the original contract for the kitchen at Maple Corner. The work order was signed by Marla, but the property owner listed on the permit is the Iris Callaway Trust. He was prepared to testify that he found the Whitcomb House sign request highly irregular and kept the original paperwork, just in case. Check. My father is just sitting. He is a ghost in his own dining room. He is watching the systematic, legal dismantling of the life he allowed to be built around him. And now, Ward says, we come to the will. Marla's head snaps up, a spark of her old fire. There is no will. It was lost. The lawyer, Harrison, he's incompetent. It was lost. It was not lost. Marla, Ward says, her voice like Arctic cold. It was stolen by your cousin, in a blue suit. We have the text messages. We know about the $5,000 fee. The front door, which the deputy had left ajar, opens again. An old man walks in, leaning heavily on a cane. He is frail, but his eyes are like bits of blue glass. Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison, I say. It is the first time I have felt anything close to relief tonight. Rowan, he nods to me. He looks at my father, who seems to sink lower in his chair. Then he looks at Marla, and his expression is one of pure, unadulterated contempt. Mr. Harrison, Ward says, thank you for coming. I trust your recovery is complete. Sufficiently, Harrison says, his voice dry as old paper. It seems my minor stroke was, in fact, a severe reaction to a beta blocker I was not prescribed, one that, mysteriously, showed up in my coffee the last day Mrs. Whitcomb visited my office to review the estate. But I am a cautious man. Mrs. Whitcomb, and Iris Callaway was a more cautious woman. He is holding a large, heavy vellum envelope, sealed with red wax. I never kept the Callaway master files in my Northbridge office. Your grandmother knew you. Marla, she knew her son. The original, fully executed will has been in a climate-controlled state archive vault in Montpelier for the last 5 years. The copy you paid your cousin to steal was a decoy. My grandmother, she had set her own trap, years ago. Upon my recovery, Harrison continues, and at the request of the district attorney, I retrieved the original this afternoon. It is certified, it is legal, and it is final. He hands the envelope to Elena Ward. Ward does not savor the moment. She slits the wax seal with a small knife from her briefcase. She pulls out the thick, heavy document. She scans the first 2 pages. Standard bequests, personal items, jewelry. She stops. Ah, here it is. Page 3, Article 4. The disposition of Maple Corner and the residual trust. The room is silent. The only sound is the choir. Faintly, singing Silent Night, the circle closing. Ward reads, My house, Maple Corner, and all assets contained within the associated trust shall not pass to my son, Gordon Callaway. My father closes his eyes. A small, pained breath escapes him. He knew. He must have always known he was not trusted. Ward continues, They shall be held in trust, under what I have termed the Sunset Clause, for a period of 1 year following my death. At the end of that year, the house and all assets will pass, in full, to the heir who has best demonstrated the values of preservation. She looks up from the page. There is a definition. Preservation is not defined as maintenance, which is mere upkeep. Preservation is defined as the active protection of memory, history, and truth. The heir who keeps the receipts, who honors the truth of this family, good or bad, shall inherit. The executor, Mr. Harrison, will be the sole judge of this condition. Mr. Harrison steps forward. He looks at me. He sees the locket, still at my throat. He sees the brass key, sitting in the wine stain. He sees the files in Ward's hand. In my capacity as executor of the Iris Callaway estate, Harrison says, his voice ringing with a strength he did not seem to possess, And in light of the overwhelming evidence presented by Rowan Calloway, evidence which constitutes the ultimate act of preserving this family's truth against a campaign of deliberate erasure, I find that Rowan Calloway is the sole rightful heir. The sunset clause is fulfilled. The trust and the house belong to her. It is done. Marla. She does not scream. She does not faint. She does not cry. She is a calculator, and she has just run her final, losing equation. She deflates. She turns to Elena Ward. Her voice is a low, unrecognizable rasp. It is the voice of the true Marla. I want to talk to you, alone. We can make a deal. I have information about Gordon's store, the taxes. He hasn't filed properly in years. I can help you. We can make a deal. She is selling him, her last act, her last worthless asset. Elena Ward shakes her head. She slides the will back into its envelope. No, Mrs. Whitcomb, there are no deals. You are not a cooperating witness. You are the target of this investigation. The time for negotiations is over. Marla looks at my father, a final, desperate plea for an ally. My father, he is still sitting in the dining room chair, the one he sank into. He is staring at the table. He is staring at the scorched, black circle the hampan has burned into the ancient lace. He has finally, truly let go of the oven. He has let go of the pretense. He is no longer the patriarch, the carver, the host. He does not look at his wife. He does not look at me. He does not look at anyone. He just sits, a slumped, gray man in the ruins, finally, absolutely, silent. I did not go back to my father's house, not that night, after the sheriff had taken Marla, after Mr. Harrison had shaken my hand. I walked out. I left my father sitting at the ruined table, a sentinel in his own personal hell. I walked across the cold, silent town green, the snow falling in perfect, orderly flakes. The key, Iris's key, was heavy in my hand. I put it in the lock of Maple Corner. The mechanism was stiff, unused. It took a moment of force, and then it turned. A heavy, satisfying thunk. The house was cold. The air was sterile. Marla's improvements had stripped the entryway of all its warmth. It smelled of new paint, tile grout, and the sharp, chemical scent of industrial-grade stainless steel. In the center of the house, where the warm, cluttered dining room used to be, was her monument, the industrial kitchen. The wolf range was a silver beast, a cold altar of her ambition. The white farmhouse sink was large enough to be a bathtub. She had torn the heart out of the house and replaced it with a machine. I did not sleep. I went to the attic. Her boxes were stacked neatly. Holiday decor, old linens, and one, in the back, marked Miss Calloway. Inside, beneath a pile of moth-eaten blankets, was the portrait. My grandmother. It was a simple oil painting from her youth. Her hair dark, her eyes the same color as mine, but harder, the eyes of an auditor who has seen every trick in the book. She was not smiling. I brought her downstairs. I took a hammer and a nail. I drove the nail into the pristine plaster wall, right above the monstrous stove. I hung the portrait. Her eyes, cool and assessing, now presided over the kitchen. She was back. On the mantelpiece, where Marla had placed a row of identical, sterile glass vases. I set down Iris's garden journal. The cover was worn, cloth-bound, and stained with dirt. It was a small, soft, true thing in a room of hard, clean lies. The house was mine, but it was not yet home. It was a system restore in process. The next few days were about procedure. Elena Ward's office was a model of efficiency. The grand jury indictment came down like a hammer. Marla was charged on 6 counts: aggravated fraud, forgery, misappropriation of trust assets, larceny, and financial elder abuse. The text to her cousin and the audio of the slap had made the assault charge stick as well. Her lawyer, hired from Boston, was already floating defenses, claiming she was a devoted wife, suffering from financial anxiety, who was unjustly targeted by a vindictive, estranged stepdaughter. The data, however, did not care about her anxiety. The data was absolute. The trial was set for spring. My first act of restoration was public. I called Mr. Abernathy at St. Ember. "Rowan," he said, his voice warm, "the whole town is, well, we are all sending you our prayers." "Thank you, Mr. Abernathy," I said. "I'm calling about the piano." There was a pause. "Ah, yes, that was most irregular." "I would like to fulfill the donation my grandmother intended," I said. "The Iris Callaway Trust will be purchasing a new piano for the church, a real one, and I will be sending you the original itemized invoice." A week later, it was installed. On the side, a small brass plaque was affixed. It read, "Donated by the Iris Callaway Trust, in memory of Iris Callaway, who believed truth was the highest note." My second act was for the house, that kitchen. It was a monument to greed, an engine built to fuel a ghost company. I would not tear it out. I would repurpose it. I called the Northbridge High School principal. I told her I was starting a program. The Long Table Project, I called it. 2 weeks later, the first group arrived. 6 teenagers, wary and quiet, the ones who sat in the back of the class and were good at math, but bad at sports. The ones, like me, who were overlooked. They shuffled onto the new, expensive herringbone tile, expecting a home ec class. I sat them at the massive steel island. I handed them each a package of Oreos. Then I handed them a copy of the 10K filing for Nabisco. "One of these is a snack," I said, tapping the cookies. "The other one tells you who really owns the snack, how much debt they're in, and where their money is really going." They stared at me. Marla Whitcomb, I told them, was very good at reading the fine print, and she was even better at writing it. She lost because her data was sloppy. Today, we are not just going to learn how to make a 6-cheese macaroni on a $1,000 stove. We are going to learn how to read a balance sheet. We are going to learn what a shell corporation looks like. We are going to build a new long table, and we are going to learn how to keep our own receipts. For the first time in that kitchen, I heard laughter. It was the sound of a new system being built. Then he called. My father. His voice was a thread. "Rowan? Can I need to see you, please." I told him to come to Maple Corner, not his house, mine. He stood in the doorway of the kitchen, looking like a refugee. He was thinner. The house he had lived in, the one Marla had built around him, was now a sealed crime scene, pending the division of assets. He was staying in a motel by the highway. He stared at Iris's portrait, now hanging above the stove. She did all this," he whispered. It was not an accusation. It was a statement of fact. "Yes," I said. He shuffled his feet on the new tile. He looked at his hands. I'm so sorry, Rowan, for everything." I said nothing. Sorry was noise. It was a null value. It meant nothing in an equation. He stood there, in the silence, and I could see him gathering every last piece of his broken courage. He finally looked at me. He looked at the bruise on my cheek, which had faded to a sickly, greenish yellow. "I saw," he said. The words were stones, ripped from his throat. When I should have looked, all those years, I saw, when she broke the shepherdess, when the money, I saw it. He took a ragged breath. I didn't want it to be true, because if it was true, I would have had to do something, and I was a coward. It was the first completely true thing he had said to me since my mother died. I wanted to feel something, a rush of daughterly love, a sense of closure. I didn't. I felt the cool, clear calm of an analyst who has just received the final, signed piece of data. The query was complete. I did not say, "I forgive you." I did not say, "It's okay." I turned to the steel counter. I picked up a single sheet of paper I had printed earlier. It was a blank spreadsheet. I placed it in front of him. I'm glad you see it now, Dad. He looked at the paper. This is a repayment plan, I said, my voice as level as the steel counter. This is for my mother's trust, the $64,000, plus 10 years of compounded interest, and this second column is for the hardware store, the money Marla siphoned, the tax debt she was going to use to bargain with the DA. We have to save the store. It's the only thing left of your life. I handed him a pen. List every withdrawal you knew about, I said. List every time you didn't look, and then sign at the bottom, you will repay the trust. You will repay the store. We will do it together. This is the audit. He did not hesitate. He did not argue. He took the pen. His hand was shaking, a tremor that ran up his arm. He wrote, simply, all of it, and at the bottom, he signed his name, his lazy, rounded, authentic signature. It was an acceptance of the debt. He pushed the paper back to me. His eyes were wet. Thank you, he whispered. He stood, diminished, a man hollowed out. He walked to the door, then paused, his hand on the new, cold steel knob. Rowan? His voice was small. The ham. From that night, it's still in the pan. At the other house. The police. They let me back in for a minute. It's still on the table. May I take the ham? The question was so absurd, so tragic, so him, the symbol of his failure, the prop he had clung to. He wanted to retrieve it from the wreckage. I looked at this man, my father, broken, holding on to the one, single thing he knew how to manage. I nodded. Yes, Dad, you can take the ham. I watched him shuffle away. But let it cool first, I said to his retreating back. It's done. The jury, my relatives, began to send their own data. A text from Uncle Mike. Rowan, I've spoken to Ms. Ward. I will testify to what I saw. I am ashamed. I am sorry. An email from Aunt Carol. Dearest Rowan, I was a coward. I have been a coward for 20 years. Please forgive an old woman. I am prepared to make a formal statement about Marla's long-term pattern of manipulative behavior. I am so sorry. I read the messages. I did not reply. I forgive you. They were not apologizing to me. They were clearing their own ledgers, but the data was clean. I forwarded the messages to Elena Ward. More corroboration, I wrote. Night fell. The house was quiet. The teenagers were gone. The steel kitchen island wiped clean. Smelling of flour and lemon. My father was gone. His ham presumably with him. I was alone. I stood by the new, wide window Marla had installed, looking out at the bare, black branches of the sugar maple. It was a good window. I would keep it. I walked through the house, checking the locks. I turned off the lights. The house was secure. I locked the heavy front door. The old brass key, Iris's key, felt warm in my hand. Solid. The wind was picking up outside. It moved through the tops of the maples, a sound like a long, slow, clean exhalation. The house was settling. The accounts were, finally, balancing. I did not feel happy. I did not feel triumphant. I just felt present. And for the first time in my life, Maple Corner was not silent. It was just quiet. It is Christmas Eve. 1 year later, the second Christmas Eve. I am standing in the sanctuary of St. Ember Church. The air is not heavy with dread and synthetic pine. It is alive. It smells of real beeswax candles and the sharp, cold pine of the garlands draped over every pew. The pews are full. This is not a private dinner. It is a public gathering. The sign by the door, which I painted myself at Maple Corner, reads, The first annual St. Ember fundraiser for the Maple Corner Community Long Table. My program, the one I built in the sterile, industrial kitchen Marla installed. The kitchen that was supposed to be her monument is now a classroom. The Wolf Range, once a symbol of her theft, now boils pots of pasta for teenagers learning to cook. The Steel Island, once her fortress, is now where those same teenagers learn to read a 10K filing. how to spot a shell corporation, how to audit the world that tries to fool them. Mr. Abernathy finishes a piano prelude. On the new piano, the real one, the one with the plaque, and the room settles. He nods to me. I walk to the lectern. I am not wearing the locket. I do not need it. The locket, its data long since catalogued as evidence, now sits in a box in my grandmother's desk, a silent artifact. I look out at the faces. I see Mrs. Leary in the front row. I see Mr. Harrison, looking frail but sharp as ever. I see the kids from my long table class, trying to look bored but failing. In the very back, almost hidden by a column, I see Aunt Carol and Uncle Mike. They are here. They showed up. I adjust the microphone. The light from the altar candles catches the side of my face. "Good evening," I say. My voice is clear. It does not shake. For a long time, in this town, we used silence as a shield. We used it to keep the peace. We used it to cover the things we found too difficult or too impolite to look at. I pause. I look at the back row, at my aunt and uncle. They do not look away. Silence used to cover us, I say. Tonight, we use our voices. We are here to count who is present. Thank you for showing up. I step away from the lectern. There is a quiet, warm applause. As I turn, the great bell in the tower begins to toll. 7 o'clock. And as if summoned by the bell, the heavy oak door at the back of the church groans open, letting in a swirl of cold air and falling snow. The congregation turns. A man is standing in the doorway. He is silhouetted against the dark blue night. He takes one step, then another, into the light. It is my father. He is not the gray, slumped man I left in the wreckage of the dining room. He is wearing a dark, well-fitted suit. His hair is combed. He is walking, not shuffling, and he is carrying a large silver platter. On the platter is a ham. It is a perfect, glistening, honey-glazed ham, studded with cloves, a mirror image of the one he abandoned me to save. But this one is whole. It is uncut. He walks, his footsteps measured and silent on the stone aisle. He is not looking at the altar. He is looking only at me. The church is silent. This is not on the program. On top of the ham, held in place by 2 skewers, is a single white document, a piece of paper, a receipt. He reaches the front of the church, where the donation table is set. He gently, carefully, places the heavy platter on the table. Then he turns, steps to the lectern, and leans into the microphone. He speaks, and his voice is not the hollow murmur of a coward. It is the clear, resonant voice of a man who has finished his audit. "I choose my daughter," he says. The words land. They echo in the high, vaulted ceiling. Aunt Carol lets out a small, quiet sob. My father points to the piece of paper on the ham. "This," he says, "is the final payment, from the hardware store, to the restitution fund. It is... the account is balanced." He steps away from the microphone. He looks at me, and he nods. He has done his work. He has showed up. He is still standing there, a guard by his offering, when the main doors of the church crash open. Marla. A collective, sharp intake of breath from the entire town. She is out. Her trial ended 4 months ago. 6 counts, reduced to 3 after she turned state's evidence against her own accountant. She served 90 days. She is here. She looks hard. The prison time did not soften her. It calcified her. Her blonde hair is a perfect, defiant helmet. She is wearing a coat that costs more than my car. She must have known this was happening. She must have timed this, her entrance, to disrupt the one thing in this town that was healing. "This is a spectacle," she snaps, her voice the familiar, sharp sound of breaking glass. "This is a joke, this entire town, celebrating a thief who stole her own family's..." She stops, because a bright, white light has just illuminated the wall above the choir. Mr. Abernathy, at the projector booth, has hit the switch. It is not a hymn, it is a slide. the seal of the state of Vermont, bold and undeniable. Elena Ward, sitting in the front pew, stands up. She turns to face Marla, who is frozen in the aisle. "Marla Whitcomb," Elena says, her voice casual but carrying the weight of the law. "You are in violation of your parole. The terms clearly state you are not to come within 500 feet of Rowan Calloway or Maple Corner." The slide clicks, a spreadsheet appears, a list of assets. Whitcomb Advisory LLC, Ridgetop Catering, Brecht, Kyle J.J. And Elena continues, as if addressing the choir, "As a public update, as ordered by the court, all assets seized from Mrs. Whitcomb's fraudulent enterprises have been fully liquidated. The final check was delivered this morning. The Maple Corner Community Long Table is now funded for the next 10 years. Marla is trapped. The light from the projector pins her. She is just a woman in an expensive coat. Her calculations all run to zero. The town is not listening to her. They are reading the spreadsheet. She has no power here. The data is on the wall." She turns, a single, sharp movement, and flees. The heavy door slams shut behind her. The air is electric. "One last piece of business," a new voice says. "Mr. Harrison. He is at the lectern. He is holding a single, old, cream-colored envelope." "When Iris Calloway created her trust," he says, his voice quavering slightly with age but not with weakness, "she left this letter. It was sent to the church archives, with a simple instruction. To be read aloud on the first Christmas Eve after my estate is truly settled. I believe that night is tonight." He puts on his reading glasses. He slits the envelope. He reads, "To my friends at St. Ember, this town loves comfort. We love silence. We often love it more than we love the truth." He continues, "My house, Maple Corner, has held the memory of this town for a long time. It has seen too much silence. My son, Gordon, is a good man, but he is a weak man. He fears the truth, because he has been taught that the truth is a weapon. My father does not flinch. He just listens. Therefore," Mr. Harrison reads, his voice gaining strength, "my estate will not pass to the person who is the kindest or the most polite. It will pass to the one Calloway who understands that truth is not a weapon for humiliation. Truth is simply an audit. It is a tool for preservation." Mr. Harrison looks up, over his glasses, directly at me. "I leave Maple Corner, and all its assets, to the one who knows how to look straight at the facts. I leave it to the one who can hold the guilty accountable, without needing to make them ashamed. I leave it to the one who, when given the choice, knows how to keep the receipts." He folds the letter. Signed, Iris Calloway. The twist is not that I got the house. The twist is that she knew, all those years ago, exactly what would be required. She did not leave me a gift. She left me a job. The choir, taking its cue, begins to sing. It is Silent Night, soft, a cappella, perfect. I am standing by the donation table. I look at my father. He is looking at the ham. He nods toward the carving knife, which sits, polished and waiting, on the silver platter, an offering. Will you cut? Will you serve? I pick up the knife. It is small. I look at the ham, the symbol of my father's failure, now redeemed as the symbol of his accountability. I hold the knife for a moment. Then I set it back down. I do not cut. That is his work to do. Or perhaps, tonight, it is just a receipt. It does not need to be eaten. It only needs to be seen. I turn away from the table. In the front pew, there is an empty chair, a simple, wooden chair, brought from Maple Corner, the one Iris always used to sit in, the one with the worn velvet cushion. On the back, I had a small brass plaque installed. It is polished. It reads, "For those who show up." As I move toward it, my coat pocket buzzes. A single, silent vibration. I pull my phone out, keeping the screen low, an email. From Elena Ward. Subject, Next Steps. I open it. The text is short. Rowan, your long table model is working. Teaching data literacy as a life skill is revolutionary. The governor saw the report on the restitution fund. He wants to know if you would be willing to lead a new, statewide community financial transparency initiative. We need you. Think about it. A new job? A new set of books? Not my family. The state. I slide the phone back into my pocket. I look at my father, who has, with shaking hands, picked up the carving knife. He is not cutting. He is just holding it. I look at the empty chair. I sit down. I take my place. A candle on the altar flickers. The light catches the side of my mouth. The place where the skin did not heal perfectly. The scar, my own receipt, is a thin, pale, silver line, and it glows in the darkness. There is no applause. There is no victory. There is just the music, and the quiet, and the presence of those who chose to see. The choir finishes its last verse. Sleep in heavenly peace. Outside, the snow is falling, thick and clean, covering the old tracks, and Maple Corner is home. It is not silent. It is, at last, quiet. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you are listening from. So please leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories, like this video, and support us by hitting the hype button so this story can be heard by more people.